and start the recording. So if anyone would prefer not to be on camera, please do let us know. You can just turn your camera off, but we're recording this for folks who are not able to join us today, or if you would like to go back and review it at a later time. So this is what our campus looks like early in the morning. I can attest, I was just looking at it myself today, and just again, we want you to know that you are an extension of our campus. I know some of you provide internships literally on our campus, and some of you are quite far away in terms of distance. But as I said before, your role with our students is absolutely critical, and we see you very much as a part of this. So thank you to those of our alum out there. I see you. I see your names, I see your faces, and just appreciate the ways that you're giving back. And whether you went to Cal or not for your MSW, please know that we welcome you into our Cal family. So we're going to take a look at our agenda for today on the next slide. And so a couple things, we're going to just talk briefly about kind of our philosophy and roles in practicum education, making sure that we're clear about who does what. Then we're going to get into talking briefly about your practicum instructor toolkit, where to go for key information. Next, we're going to look at effective task selection and supervision, just touch on that a bit. And then we're going to get into an opportunity to apply some of what we've talked about. I'm going to share some vignettes with you and some opportunities to work on those in small groups, and then share back. We'll go over, of course, those essentials and non-negotiables that we definitely want to make sure are clear, things our students must do and must never do. We'll go over those. Some important reminders that are coming up for the year ahead, and then ask you about your takeaways. So we've got a lot to cover, and I do promise we will have a break at approximately 10:15 for about 15 minutes. Okay, so we will get a stretch break, but please, as always, take care of yourself as you need to. If you are just joining us, please remember, if you are looking for CEUs today, please put your name and your license type and number in the chat, and we will attend to that after the training today. All right, so we're going to go on to the next slide. So we're going to start with something, and I don't know if folks have done Menti before, but if you have not, it's an opportunity for us to kind of interact a little bit, sort of like a poll. And this is a cartoon that is called The Blob Tree, very well named. I mean, it just is what it is, right? So I want to invite you to, if you can, go into menti.com. You can do that if you have another device, or you can open another window. So you can go there and then enter the code 147026665, and you can participate that way. If that doesn't work for you, don't worry, you can still participate. What I'm going to invite you to do is to take a look at this blob tree, and I want you to think about your own experience as an intern. If you can remember it, for some of us, it was 5 minutes ago. For others of us, it was boopity boop years. We won't have to talk about that right now. But think about when you were an intern, and take a look at this blob tree, and what stands out as, a figure that reflects how you experienced it, your experience as an intern. So just take a moment and notice the number, because you can see on the figures, there's numbers written on them. So notice the number that goes with the blob that best represents your experience as an intern. Just think about that for a moment.
Christine, it seems like the Menti is set up for questions about what questions do we have today, and not this experience question.
That's the next question. I'm sorry, that was an original question, and we will fix that. Thank you. Thank you for letting me know. I will fix that right now. Okay, does that let you move forward? Are folks able to see the next one? Yeah, okay, thank you. All right, so as you're thinking about that, we're gonna keep the picture, so no worries, it's not going anywhere. Just want to explain what we're gonna do. So we'll go to the next slide. And just what we're going to do is we're going to put you in breakouts, and we're going to ask you this debrief is going to be a little quicker, but we want you to just kind of think about these roles that we're going to use later in the training as well. So to just kind of make it easy and hopefully not have you take a lot of time figuring out who's doing what. If you can, in your group, just by alphabetical order, first name. So A is the first one, if your name starts with B, go to the next one. Okay, so A is your facilitator. Look at how much time we're giving you for the activity. Keep the group on track with what we're asking you to do. Timekeeper, just help your team remember how much time we have left. The recorder, if notes are needed, you can just jot down some key themes that came out. And then reporter, someone who would be prepared to share de-identified comments, meaning not like Christine said, but some things that came up in our group were. Okay, so any questions about what we're asking you to do? We're going to get into your small group and ask you to talk about your experience as an intern. Okay.
Quick question. How much time do we have?
How much time do you have? Thank you for that. You'll have about 7 minutes.
Thanks.
Welcome back. Right. I wish calling students back from class was as easy to do as this is, right, from breakout rooms. So, all right. So I want to hear about what kind of showed up in your group about your experience as an intern. I took a look at the results on Menti. It looks like we had some popular numbers that showed up for a number of you. We can go to the next slide. So which group would like to share out? What came up in your group? What number was popular? Anybody want to share?
I can share since I am the reporter for our group.
Great, thank you.
So in our group, there seems to be a theme as we spoke about our first year internship or first time internship. Was a lot. The theme is around support, needing support that may not be available or that we were constantly needing, that support. So the theme that I heard in our group was support, needing support.
Needing support. Okay, thank you. That's really important. Appreciate that. What else came up? Other reporters?
I'll speak. This is Jeannie.
Hi.
From our group, I would say, first off, a positive note is we all learned somewhere along the line, regardless of what the experience was. So that was a good thing. But I would have to say the same overall thing was, differences between first year and second year.
Mm-hmm.
But the support, you really have to know how to grab and get in there. Depending on what's going on, to be able to grab what you can do, because the experiences are up and down with what you're going to take away from
Very
that.
true. Very true. Thank you. Thank you. So it's important to grab that branch, grab what you can, right?
Yep, that's it.
Not to go too far with this analogy, but I might. So, all right. Thank you for that.
I'm happy to go next, Christine.
Yeah, great.
Our group really just shared the value of cultivating the next generation of social workers. So we had someone from Napa State Hospital just explain how it's been a great pipeline just to cultivate new workers to get interested in the field and, pretty much serve a population that people perhaps may not be so inclined to do so when they enter graduate school. So it was really beautiful.
Absolutely. Thank you. That giving back, right? So maybe it's 10 and 11, kind of sitting next to the next generation, encouraging them on, whatever that might be, right? But remembering that we're giving back. Thank you for that.
I can go.
Yeah.
We had a range of experiences from, really not unsupportive internships to very supportive. But I think one theme that did emerge was having a peer was very helpful for a few people that kind of went with them through their internship experience. And then I think the range was from like having a supervisor that was entirely unsupportive to some that were incredibly supportive.
Right, that range, right? Absolutely. Thank you for that. So having a peep, another person, another intern can be helpful. Sometimes our spaces have that and sometimes they don't, but there's different ways we might cultivate that. Appreciate that point.
We also had the same experience in our group as well. Co-interns really being supportive while some supervisors were pretty hands-off. other
Mhm.
supervisors were, and also, going into a placement where the population wasn't really for you, and that was also a learning experience.
Mhm.
And yeah, that's mainly it for us.
Yeah, thank you for that. I think that's so important to remember that sometimes what we learn is what we don't want, or what maybe isn't the best fit for us. And that's really critical. Thank you.
I can go next.
Sure.
I think ours, it mostly went around 14 and 13, and a lot to do with like imposter syndrome, feeling like sometimes like you're trying to hang on, fast paced, or this fear of easily getting lost. But also there was some people who spoke around 10 or 11, and the theme was really having someone who was supportive. People, again, mentioning other interns that were also there. So having that support really made a difference.
Yeah, thank you. Right. So from feeling lost to feeling supported, it can be the gamut in the same place. And sometimes, that pervasive experience can last throughout the internship too. Thank you so much. Yeah.
We also had a few 10s and 11s, and then I think I echo all the people who said that it was a huge range. Like everyone shared really different experiences, from some being super supportive, a lot of colleagues, and others much more alone, do it yourself, and not so supportive or very hands-off supervisors.
Thank you. And just as a reminder for all of us, right, our students are in our, field seminars, right, where they're learning and hearing from each other, and they hear these ranges from their peers too, right, across the gamut that you're all talking about. And thank you for naming that DIY part, Ursula. I think our profession is, we're good at duct tape, we duct tape things together when we have to. And I think just that piece about, whenever we can to try to make sure that we're not having our students do a do-it-yourself kind of an internship, but figuring out what that looks like. Other thoughts?
I can share.
Oh, sorry.
Got two people.
Ours is quick. I mean, our group said pretty much everything really similar to what everybody else said. The one thing I think that came out was that a lot of our negative experiences that we had really shaped our goals and our motivation to make our interns experience a lot better.
Yes.
In so many ways. And I think a lot has changed in the field. And so it's just a lot different now, which I think is a good thing. But yeah, it's just that a lot of us had some negative experiences, not feeling supported, high expectations, not feeling equipped to practice therapy, and just getting support, or giving support now is kind of a way, like a corrective experience, I guess you could say.
Thank you for that. Yes, a corrective experience. I hear that a lot. There was somebody who's Rochambeauing. We're trying to find it.
Here.
Okay.
As kind of a similar kind of theme that was shared is that folks were put in situations that they really didn't feel prepared for, that they had not really received the education or the training to be providing therapy to folks in settings of like a lockdown mental health facility, or just things that felt like out of their league. So there was some fear there that was expressed, and like, how do we mitigate that? And additionally, programming that was not set up for interns of color to be successful in, that those programmings were pretty underdeveloped. And like, to hear about the diversity, but there wasn't really an avenue to shift or take responsibility for the institutional and structural racism that was present. So lifting up that voice and really wanting to, I really want to center that, right? Like also marginalizations that we might not be able to see. So if we're working with folks that we don't know about what their marginalized experiences are, how do we make space for that within our program that we might not have control over too, right? Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for bringing in those important pieces, right? And so how do we co-create learning spaces and employment spaces, right, for all of our profession, right, and to really debunk and dismantle this very traditional, I think, a lot of ways, and just consistently hearing from students that vignettes and a lot of books and things like this are written when addressing race, as if the social worker is always white, and not seeing that reflection, right, in our spaces of supervisors of color, of really looking at how do systems dismantle racism and oppression. I really appreciate that. And that's more work for all of our systems to take on, including ours for sure. Yeah. I think I saw a hand earlier. Did I miss you, Maggie? Don't mean to call you out, but I just want to make sure to call you in if I missed you.
Hi, Christine.
Hi.
My name's Maggie. I just wanted to shout out my first supervisor who's in this room, Cristal at Familias Unidas. She made me feel so grounded as a first year. Coming from being a teacher to a social worker was a huge jump. And so a lot of our interns are coming in with former careers that they want to leverage, and they want to leverage those skill sets. And so Chris did a great job of helping me leverage the educator background while also transitioning into being a therapist. And additionally, she ran didactic outside of supervision. And I think that that's critical. And I've tried to carry that into being my own supervisor, as like holding sacred didactic training practice, because interns are paying for this experience. They're paying for their units and their credits. And so although some people provide a stipend, like this is not just an additional employee. This is someone that's here to train and do clinical practice. Not everyone can build in didactic, but if the organization can support you to take something off your plate to add an hour of training plus the planning and prep for that into your experience, I think it can be really successful and helpful to interns.
Thank you, Maggie. And thank you for that other piece, right, about the structural support. And we try to front load some of that. I know we sent out our tips and suggestions and getting ready for your intern over the summer, and really consistently want to, really remind, that this is really an organizational commitment to receive an intern. And sometimes our organizations do that really clearly and explicitly. And other times, I hear from instructors that you have to really beg for it, and I know that that's tricky because our systems are, often underfunded and under-resourced in many, many powerful ways. But when you can carve that out and really make that available, whether it's didactic or other supports, right? Yeah, thank you all so much. And I know there's so much left on the table here, but just really want to start by centering, student experience and kind of remembering for ourselves, right, what it was like as an intern. And I heard a couple of you talk about this kind of reparative experience. And I think sometimes, and I am not a parent of human children. Dogs are very different. I always want to be really clear. But I think that, sometimes people talk about it like parenting, and not to infantilize students, but what I mean by that is that sometimes we give what we didn't get, or we give what we wish we had. And sometimes that's right on point. And sometimes that's about our learning style and what we needed at that time, right? So I think it's also about how do we kind of continuously think about, giving back to the next generation and recognizing who's in front of us and what are their learning needs and styles. And it's a very difficult thing to do. And yet we do it every year, and we do it because of you. So just really want to thank you for all the ways that you're flexible and thinking about our different student needs. So I want to go to the next slide and talk a little bit about, as we think about the work that's ahead of us, right, in this work. There are some key pieces, if you want to go ahead and click there. Yeah, so when we just think about what is our Practicum education program, we hope first and foremost that it's collaborative, that it's bi-directional. And part of what we mean by that is that there's the learning that happens on campus and classrooms, and bringing that into the community spaces that you're in, bringing the community in to the spaces here at Haviland Hall. And of course, all of the ways that our students travel in and out of those spaces with all of their intersectional identities, as well as all of ours, right? Yours and ours. We think about, supporting education that's relevant. And I think that that's consistently something that our profession needs to reckon with. It's something that I know our school is continuing to look at our curriculum, relevance in terms of the current moment, relevance in terms of skills, right? I heard a number of you talking about how thinking about your own experience as an intern, really wondering, where am I going to get the skills? Am I well equipped, right? And I think sometimes there can be this, oh, I thought you were learning it in class. Oh, I thought you were learning it at internship. Our profession is quite broad, right? We're preparing students to do so many different kinds of things. They could be policy analysts, they could be therapists, they could be managers, they could, so many things. You all know this, right? You're here. But the point is that preparing them well for any and all of those things can be very challenging, right? So there's going to be things that we miss. We do attempt to, support that relevance. It's critical that our work is anti-racist and anti-oppressive. And frankly, and finally, our accrediting body has finally centered that more explicitly in our accreditation standards to hold university spaces accountable for the education that we're providing to our students. I'll talk a little bit more about that. And that, that has always been critical and important. And we're just seeing it reflected a little bit more explicitly there. Of course, we want to think about the NASW Code of Ethics, right, embedded within the work that we do, and that we're looking at evidence-based / evidence-informed, right? That is part of the charge that we have, and our different spaces will navigate that differently. Some very formally, some more informally, really recognizing evidence-informed practice by what works in the community, what we've tried, and what you found to be successful, whether or not there's an official study behind it. And other times we do have that evidence base through study and research. And part of really thinking about anti-racist and anti-oppressive practice is also, really recognizing what gets viewed as, quote, legitimate knowledge and what gets delegitimized as knowledge and evidence, right? So we also want to, consistently interrogate that in our work. So I want to talk a little bit about toolkit. And I know that's kind of dorky, sorry, but what to put on the slide. My colleagues are going to put in the chat a handout for you that has, our hope was to kind of centralize a number of resources as kind of a go-to place that you can go back to throughout the year. I'm going to reference a couple of different things in our time today to point them out to you. If you could please put that handout in the chat when you have a moment. Thank you. And we believe we have these settings set to where everyone can see them. So if you don't mind giving it a try, we will send out the links and everything after the training. Thank you, Erica. Yes, we'll send the slides, we'll send this handout, but we do want to make sure you can open it because sometimes our Google is a little fussy. So better to handle it now with you present. And so, one of the things that we want to make sure, to cover is to think about, what's in that toolkit. So I'm going to just briefly share screen if that's okay. Let me try that real quick. Okay, so it should look something like this, right? In fact, it should look exactly like this. This is it. So just some key points, you can access our calendar, our policies on our website. We have additional resources for practicum instructors, including things like work study. For some of you who have been asking questions about becoming a work study site, your students might have questions about that. We posted a webinar there from last summer to help support that. Information about training and events that may come forward this year. We'll talk about that later. Our contact information for my colleague Erica, our Practicum Education Program Coordinator, makes the magic happen. I know all of you have been in touch with her. It's why you're here today. So thank you, Erica. And myself. Yes.
It's not showing on the screen. Just
thank you. Thank you for letting me know that. Dora, could you share it on your screen, maybe? Thanks for letting us know. Okay. We may, it's blocked. Okay, interesting. All right, 1 second. I see a lot of you in here, but some of you are not. So 1 second, let's try this. Okay, and then, okay. Oh, no, there's a lot of people in it at this time. So here's having some technical issues. I want to keep us moving here. Okay, it will be emailed. I'm sorry that it's blocked at work. Yep, okay. Yep. And Dora, it's not letting me send it to you. All right, so we're having a moment, and that's all right. But I just want to let you know, and we'll work on fixing this at the break. But yeah, on this worksheet and kind of handout, there's links to key elements of our website and how to reach out to our team, as well as some key forms that are important that I will share with you a little bit later that are important in terms of, you know, what might be going on with students and how you can communicate those things to us. So we'll go to the next slide. So I want to talk a little bit about the role of our practical consultants. These are our UC Berkeley faculty members. And so we just want to kind of talk about who does what in this important trifecta, right, between the roles of the university, the roles of the agency, and of course, our student roles. So our practicum consultants, their primary roles are to focus on instruction, consultation, and training. They do this with students directly. They also do this with you, our agency partners. So, you know, that kind of instruction and consultation, those kinds of things can look like maybe addressing a key element of learning. Perhaps, you know, it's one of those moments where your internship setting expected a student to know certain things from the university side, and you're realizing they haven't learned that yet. Your practicum consultant can help you understand where that lands in our educational trajectory here on campus, and may be able to, you know, point the student to some additional resources, and may be able to talk with you about how we handle those kinds of situations. As one example, may provide consultation and instruction around challenging situations that may happen with students, or opportunities for continued growth, right? And allowing them new opportunities. Our faculty also have a deep commitment to integration in terms of, again, bringing in what happens in other classes into our field seminar spaces, and into, you know, collaboration and communication with you. Facilitating communication between parties. Sometimes we find that students may say one thing to you about what's going on and something different to us. And or there might be a bump in the road, right? We have different communication styles. Our students are juggling many things in their personal lives, as well as a full-time program here, plus 2 and or 3 days a week with you. And, you know, we're bound to have communication bumps here and there, right? So our faculty are here to support that. Also have a critical role related to quality assurance. I know we all were talking earlier about your really varied experiences at internships. Some were great, some were not. And, you know, it's not in a judgmental fashion, but it is really about, you know, are students meeting their learning goals? And are there supports that we need to put in place or changes that need to be made to ensure that that can happen? We also, you know, our faculty also, as I mentioned, address difficulties in placement, issues of consultation. You might want to reach out and consult. And my colleagues who are here just really want to say, thank you, Marjorie. We'll fix that in the, I see you in the chat. Thank you. Looking at difficulties in placement, I think, you know, my colleagues here really want us to reiterate, please reach out to us sooner than later. Please don't wait until it's a red flag, a yellow flag, a beige flag, whatever color flag, or even if there's not a flag and you wonder about something seems a little off, or you're confused, or, you know, please reach out to us. It's what we're here for. If it becomes more significant, we may have, we're introducing this year, we've really found that it can be challenging sometimes for instructors to know kind of how to document these kinds of issues so that it's clear for students, not necessarily always in the situation where students are quote in jeopardy at their internship, but also, you know, is it clear, right? So just like, you know, we are working with our students to make sure that they have clear plans with SMART goals that are, you know, short, measurable, actionable, reasonable, and time measured, time sensitive, you know, that we think about that with students as well. So if we're saying, hey, we need you to work on your documentation, what does that look like? And so we've created what we feel is a user-friendly, you'll have to let us know what you think, and I'll fix that link in a little bit. to let us know if that feels user-friendly for you. And then, of course, our faculty issue final grades. So while you, as the instructor, make the recommendation for grades in terms of the mid-year and the year-end evaluation, our faculty are ultimately the instructors of record, and they're responsible. So your role is to offer the recommendation, and then they offer the grade. Most times we agree, sometimes we do not. And when that happens, we do talk with you about it. Okay, so those are some important roles. So I want to go into our next slide and talk a little bit about the, and I want to make sure that you get to say hello to our folks who are here today. So your practicum faculty, if you haven't already seen their email, they are reaching out to introduce themselves to you that way. And so let's see, we have a number of folks who are going to join us a little bit later. Courtney Bowie is joining us this year to support us in the fall semester. Christina Feliciana. Christina is on leave for about 2 months. So Courtney is supporting those students. So if you see both names, just want to let you know why. Claudette Nestayer is back with us this year. Jennifer Jackson is with us again this year, and Robert Watts. So we've got some experienced vets in our group and really are excited to support you and your students. So want to give a quick shout out pin there if we can to, I know Jennifer and Robert are here.
Hey, everybody.
Hi, Robert.
Good morning.
Good morning. Hi, Jennifer. Thank you. All right. Well, good to see you out there, and we will continue to engage together. So we're going to go to the next slide. So the couple things I want to just make sure you know, we're kind of your backup singers. The main event are your Practica consultants. Erica Wilson is our Practicum Education Program Coordinator. Again, Erica makes the magic happen behind the scenes a lot of the time, but is also very much front and center, answering your emails really promptly and gives so much support to our program. So thank you, Erica. And you can also reach out to me, and our contact information is posted here. And want to make sure that you know we are here to support. So I want to just acknowledge, I'm seeing in the chat in terms of the agenda and SOC specific documents and resource page. Yeah, so thank you for that, and finding that a lot of social work programs don't give enough attention to macro practice. I appreciate that. And I definitely want to, we're going to get into some vignettes. I think the resource page is a lot about who you can contact and some key issues that may arise, and supporting students, co-creating spaces for students to be well integrated into your spaces, as opposed to a particular methodology or a particular focus of social work practice. One of the things that you may have heard if you joined us or had a chance to listen to our town hall with Dean Burton is we're making some shifts to our curriculum. We recognize that, one of the things that we recognize is that macro level practice, I think, has been, kind of in one particular lane in the school for some time as a specialization. And we're really working to make sure that it's more deeply integrated into the curriculum as a whole. And definitely appreciate your points. And I'm curious if there are particular questions that you're wrestling with, want to make sure those are addressed today. And if you find, to your point, Rick, that, you're having to do a lot of translation on your own, and there's specific ways that we can support or change that, I definitely would love to hear. Is there anything either of you want to unmic and mention at the moment? I just want to acknowledge you and make sure that I'm attending to what you're sharing.
Good morning. This is Sabrina.
Hi.
Hi. So I have had, I've had interns with Cal before. This is my first time having a SOC intern. Our organization has had interns through the SOC program. And I think a challenge has been just, well, I'll speak for myself. I would really love if there is a sort of a place, a document, or a collection of documents that really talk about kind of the parameters around the project. You know, give really some guidance around what kind of what your expectations are in terms of what students' experiences will be, what they're going to produce. Some examples would be really helpful. I think, I mean, essentially it's like helping us think through a project plan, because in my experience, just to be really frank, I think that it has felt a little bit like as an organization, we're sort of just trying to create on our own a really rich experience that isn't just about like sort of your more typical internship experiences of like just sort of racking your brain trying to come up with something. I think we really want it to feel worthwhile both to the organization and also to the learning for the student. And so more guidance would be great.
Okay, I appreciate that, Sabrina. And just when you say the project, are you referring to kind of key projects the students will do throughout their internship?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, sort of just, sorry, not to interrupt, just really being reoriented around like how to think about this macro level work. And obviously the institution, whatever that may be, is your client. And so what does that mean in terms of kind of the process throughout that year? And then at the end, what you produce. Again, like I will just speak for myself, like my experience has really been having clinical interns. And so this is a real shift. My own work is systems based, but that doesn't mean I really know how to support an intern in like their own process. So yeah, any support, and I just want to make sure they have a good experience.
No, I appreciate that. Thank you. And so, I mean, I think you're naming some important pieces, and whether, for folks who, in terms of lingo, I know every school's got their own lingo and ours has changed over time. So SOC for us is strengthening organizations and communities, which is our more macro focused track. And, I want to say, Sabrina, thank you for the efforts that you're making to kind of, create an opportunity, and also just really want to underscore, you don't have to do that alone. So I'm very happy to sit down and talk with you. And if others want to do a small group or something like that, we can absolutely do that. You don't have to do this on your own. And as we'll talk a little bit more about later, you also don't have to provide something, just because the student wants it doesn't mean you have to offer it, and I'm sure that probably goes without saying, but I also just want to be respectful, right? To not have our school kind of unwittingly ask you to do something that doesn't feel in your scope, and I know that's not what you're saying necessarily, but I just wanted to make sure to name that as well, right? That it's okay that, maybe an experience isn't every single thing a student wants, but I also really hear that piece around looking for support. Rick or others, is there anything you want to bring in there?
Sure. I think the only thing that, oh, sorry, camera. The only thing that I have to say is when I talk about translation, it really is about the interaction with their peers and sometimes with some of the assignments with the classes. Many times when we talk about what it means to do an intervention, as Sabrina was talking about, right? Like our client, so to speak, is the community or the institution or whatever else that system we're working with. And it has been rough. To say the least, to be able to translate to their peers around, well, if you're talking to a particular client about this is what it looks like when we're talking about the different levels of like macro or meso macro levels of like policy or whatever else that affects the micro level. And so just some of that, kind of like what Sabrina was saying, some structure around, are there going to be classes or assignments where we'll have to do the work in making sure that it fits in that particular way. And so, for example, my interns, because of the work that we do, I've had them help to write legislation, talk to the legislators or their staffs themselves, or go to community meetings, etc. And that doesn't look the same as an intake, right? So just small things like that.
Yeah, no, thank you for that. And I'll say a couple of things. One is we are working hard this year to really focus deeply on integration between practicum education and our curriculum. We're relooking at our curriculum, and I want to this is a bigger kind of issue, but for what it's worth, I want you to know that we receive this kind of feedback and share it back in the classroom. The other thing I want to say is that whether your student is SAC or focused on children, youth, and families, or SCIF, or better known as SCIF in our program, or focused on adults, health and wellness, or AWELL, whatever their specialization in our program, all of them need to address all 9 competencies. So all of them need to address something related to meso and macro practice. All of them need to address, intervention, engagement, and assessment, which may not necessarily be with individuals, or it may be. And so, I hear what you're saying in terms of kind of having to translate assignments. What I want you to know is that, in terms of our practicum program, our specific assignments are very grounded in what is happening in their internship, not, fitting something. But I will say that sometimes other aspects of our curriculum might really, in an effort to want to integrate, say, base this on your internship. And depending on the class where that's happening, if that's happening in our psychopathology class, that might not land as clearly in a more macro placement. Similarly, a student who is focusing on more of a macro project, bringing that to, I've definitely heard from some practicum instructors who are in more clinical spaces saying, we don't really deal with policy here, right? And so, recognizing that social work is really broad, and we need to kind of bring in all of those pieces while we might not primarily be focusing on one or the other. And that's part of what we're here for. So I just want you to know I hear that, and want to invite very clearly, you can reach out to your consultants, you can reach out to me if you feel like what you're getting from our school or from our students is causing you to have to kind of have a make it work moment. We're here to work with you in that. And again, I'm not just trying to kick that down the road. We can workshop that very, very explicitly and hopefully very clearly. So thank you for bringing that in. And feel free to keep the chat going with other things. Okay. So wanted to move into talking about, I've talked a bit about the role on the university side. We'll go to the next slide. And want to talk a little bit about, the role of the MSW student. Our students, definitely, they are why we're here. And, one of the things that we expect from our students when they enter the program and when they continue through the program is to achieve and maintain eligibility for practicum education. Part of that is about their grades in other classes, is concurrent enrollment and some other things that we look at on this end. It's also about their maturity, their ability to continue to go forward as a professional social worker. And that really falls into what we just noted here, demonstrating key attributes of a social worker, right? It's important that we really support our students to be holding, what are they working towards as a professional? We embed that within expectations in our classes, and we want to hold that, expectation throughout their learning. Proactive engagement in learning, so not the kind of passive idea where my supervisor tells me what I need to know, but rather coming forward in a way like, this is what I want to learn, this is what I'm interested in, really having expectations for students that they come to supervision prepared. That said, especially, earlier in their journey, but throughout that journey, our students don't always know what they don't know. Right. And so, it's important also when we think about holding supervision to not simply say, okay, what do you got this week? Right. That might be something we might do with a vet employee, but not a graduate student. These students will need some support in kind of defining what's salient to bring to supervision. What are the kinds of things that you're looking for them to bring? And then we look for them to bring those things, those kinds of examples, and also to bring their critical thinking. Right. I mean, that's really important. Obviously, attendance is critical. They need to come and show up. their communication. We look for proactive and timely and professional communication with you, with our school. I found myself doing some kind of reminders about email and how email is different from texting lately. So let me know how that's going out there. I think sometimes we're seeing some less than thorough and or professional kind of written communication. So I think in different spaces, just whether it's, kind of how people conduct themselves in terms of their attire, in terms of their, language in spaces. Some of our spaces are quite formal, others of our spaces may be quite informal. So just really helping your student acclimate to what's considered appropriate communication in your space. And our students, I just really want to underscore, they are the primary person who are responsible for our university deliverables. We, of course, need your support. We need your assessment. We need your evaluation of how our students are performing in their internships, and that's critical. We do need to make sure that you understand the deadlines that we're working on, because as I said earlier, you provide recommendations for grades, and then our faculty, need to issue those grades. And so because of that, we do have some certain timelines in place. That said, when students say, well, my FI hasn't, or my instructor hasn't signed the document or whatever, we look to the student, to really remind you. We will also remind you, but, we really look to the student to kind of be primary in that. So going forward into more specifically about your role, we'll go to the next slide. Oh, and I'm sorry, I did want to go over these key attributes that we've asked our students to fold. Sorry about that. So we want to, make sure I've been talking a lot about communication related to students, written and verbal. Next, we have, really looking at self-awareness, right? So, beginning to develop that awareness of knowing what one doesn't know, self-awareness related to intersectional identities, and how those identities play out and contribute to how students show up and how they may be received, how they receive and are received. Is really important. Their professional commitment, right? That, the internship is not a volunteer gig. It's not when I can make it. It's not extra. It is a critical function and critical part of their education. And we do expect that to be treated that way. The knowledge base for social work practice, right? So students, really showing up and bringing what they know, and when they don't know, asking, right? Asking those questions and having that humility to acknowledge when they don't know something. Holding objectivity, we could certainly talk about, the ways in which can one ever be fully objective, right? We could certainly have a long debate and conversation about that. But really being able to kind of hold some distance between what one wants or believes themselves personally versus what may be going on for another person or situation. Really being able to hold that empathy piece and to really be able to be in someone else's experience, to have some understanding of being in someone else's shoes or experience. And then, the deep commitment to anti-oppressive practice, something that we talk a lot about in classes. And frankly, when placed in agency settings, students are sometimes either, really disillusioned at how challenging it can be to really engage in anti-oppressive practice within our systems. And sometimes that can lead to frustration. And I think, having those frank conversations with students about, how you mitigate that, how you address those commitments in your own work, what you run up against, can be really helpful to them in understanding how to navigate. And there's interpersonal skills, right? Of course, those are very critical in terms of being able to relate to you and to the work at hand. And their professional behavior throughout the practice. So again, whether a student is working with individuals, families, groups, communities, organizations, these are expectations that we hold. And it's something, as I said, that we're also really reiterating on the class side of things as well, to really ensure that there's that continuity. So as we talk a little bit about your role as the practicum instructor, so consultant is the person at the university, the instructor is you, but then it can be confusing. And the students were just telling me this, our incoming students are like, but I thought my instructor is my teacher in my seminar. So, okay, so it might take a minute for us all to get the lingo down. But you are the practicum instructor. I'm not going to call you a PI, but the part of me that wanted to be a private detective when I was in elementary school kind of wants to call you a PI, but I'm not going to. Okay. So we've got really looking at preparing for your student and providing an orientation. So we shared out some tips with you over the summer to try to, oh, Paulo, that's great. Okay, cool. We'll talk after. Awesome. I mean, we won't because we're spies. We're not going to tell everyone. No. All right. We sent out some tips over the summer to try to support us all to be thinking way ahead before students arrive. I know how life is and how life happens. Some of you might be like, oh my gosh, they're starting really soon. And if that's you, that's okay too. But, again, we recognize that it takes time. We talked about this earlier to really prepare for students. So to think about, what kind of time do you need to be able to give them for supervision? What support do you need from your team, from your supervisors, from other folks to really make this happen, to be available moving forward. Really making sure that you have that weekly supervision and training with a commitment to integration. It is challenging, I know, and many of us may have had supervisors that were not always able to give us an hour of supervision. I won't ask to see a show of hands of how many people the last time you can remember having an hour of supervision, but I do want to remind you that this is critical. It's required, and it's really critical because these are students. They don't have the same level of training, and supervision is critical for their learning. That commitment to integration, is really about, how, asking them, what are you learning in class? Is this related? And really, us bringing that in as well. To build a learning agreement, right? And so that comes up very quickly as an expectation. That's really that learning contract. Sabrina was asking earlier, kind of how do we create those projects in that learning agreement? We do share we have a video that we're going to share with you about, preparing for that. There needs to be kind of two key deliverables. It doesn't have to be a huge project, but something something to quote show for it at the end, as well as two opportunities for you to observe the student in some way, shape, or form. That could be shadowing. It could be co-facilitating. It could be watching them do a presentation, something like that. But, to really have those opportunities. And again, if you need support, that's part of what we're here for. Also, the student assessment and monitoring. There's those formal periods of assessment at the mid-year evaluation that's due in December and the year-end evaluation that's due in April. Those are key moments, but really assessment, as we often tell our students here in class, assessment is a process, not an event. You're consistently assessing how they're doing. You assess them when they come in the door, right? Assess what they already know, assess where they need to grow and learn, assess the amount of support that they need, and tailor accordingly. Maintaining communication with us. We know that we email you a lot. We try not to email you too much, and we welcome your feedback about that. But there are some key moments that we definitely want to make sure we hear from you. And those are around the learning agreement, evaluations, and recommended grades, right? Those are things that, those reminders and key due dates. We need to ask for your help in letting us know when students have areas for improvement, including those program improvement plans and incident reports. Incident reports, we'll share the link with you on that on the handout. And during the break, I'm going to make sure all those links are working to the best of my ability, and we'll figure that out. But the critical incident reports are for things like if a student was to have an injury on the job, on the internship, if they were to have, whether it's physical or emotional, if it was something very, very significant, maybe they witnessed or, were deeply, deeply impacted by a critical incident that happened to a client, maybe someone committed suicide, or there was, a very serious incident. Those are the kinds of things we'd want to make sure you let us know that so that we can support students as appropriate. And again, those areas for improvement. It could be a small thing. And as we said, we'd much rather hear from you sooner than later. It's not about students getting in trouble. It's about making sure that we're on target and supporting students together and collaboratively to make sure they have what they need to learn. We're all still, kind of reeling from the impact of this pandemic and really understanding how that's impacted folks' learning. We're finding that some things that in the past worked really well for students, we're having to repeat it in multiple ways at different times. As some of you have moved to more remote spaces, that type of learning works really well for some students and not for others. And sometimes you don't know that right away because you're not in the same room with them. So there's a lot of different ways that this can show up. And again, we just really want to underscore, and I promised our team that I would say this many times today, is like, please reach out sooner than later, because we're really here for that. We are. So I think those are some key things we wanted to make sure you knew about your role. And again, please keep putting in the chat if you have questions come up as we go. Anything people want to bring in right now? Questions that you have or comments? Okay. Right. Well, it doesn't have to be a speak now or forever hold your peace kind of thing. I'm very happy to hear any questions, comments, concerns that you're having as we go today. We can go ahead and, oh, is there someone?
Can I say something? Yeah. So
Yeah.
I just want to say that this is Lupe Gallegos, and I have about 2 or 3 sometimes grad students. You know, I found it very helpful on my end that I asked them to keep a journal for reflections and thoughts, and I also keep a journal so that we both share some of those reflections, because sometimes busy work is really a lot and sometimes we forget. So I ask them to carry a small journal with them to just jot notes for questions, reflections, things that they might want to follow up with. So I found that very helpful for at least the relationships that I've developed with of course, our MSW, but eventually practitioners in the community. So just wanted to share that.
Thank you, Lupe. That's a great idea, right? So those are things they could bring to supervision or just other times when they talk with you too?
Yes,
Yeah.
that's the whole point, because sometimes we have too much on our plates, and being intentful and mindful of that, I think, is really important, particularly if the students that I work with other students. So things have been really fast and it's a lot of information. So
absolutely. Thank you. Yeah. So jotting it down when it's present in the moment so that they can hold on to it. And I think something else that we really encourage too, and the earlier on that you can do this in your orientation and training with interns, the better, is clarify for them what are the types of things that can wait for supervision and what are the kinds of things where I need you to find me or, you know, someone else who can address your more immediate question. And I think, you know, we find that sometimes students will learn that in the moment after they waited too long. So the more we can share that as best we can, you know, at the beginning is really helpful. Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Yeah. Awesome. Any other tips people want to share or questions that are coming to mind? Yeah, I see a hand. David.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi, Christine. I just wanted to share, we had a incident last year, and what you know, I work at Napa State Hospital, and we deal with challenging incidents every day. And so it's kind of, we work so hard to try and keep our interns safe and protect them, and still sometimes things happen. And there's this fear when something happens to an intern, and you want to help them. And I just want to call out, right, to reach out to a school when anything happens, right? It's just a great practice, even though there's going to be this fear of, oh, this could potentially undermine the internship, it could potentially undermine our relationship. It actually happened to be a great relationship building experience, both kind of helping the intern navigate through this incident and working with the school. So yeah, I just encourage everyone to, you're going to have these thoughts and feelings, and it's okay to reach out for help, and do it soon and do it quickly, and everything will work out just fine.
Thank you for saying that, David. Really appreciate that. And I remember that situation well, and really appreciate how your team stepped in and reached out to us. Yeah, I mean, we sometimes hear folks say this, that, you know, I don't want it to feel like we're narking on the student, or they're getting in trouble, or I don't want to get other people in trouble. And it's really not about that. So yeah, we're here for it. Jasmine, I see your hand.
Yeah, kind of I really like Lupe's idea of the journal. I think I'm a journal kind of person. I like to have something in my hands, but what one way that I've been working with the interns is I have a live Google Doc. So that's something that we share together. It starts off with everything. So I work in a substance use treatment program. So I start them off with all of the information that they should know, because a lot of times people don't know a lot about substance use. So I have like YouTube videos and like how to engage with people, like all of these like how-tos. I mean, we talk about it as well, but it's like, hey, here's some things to kind of go in depth with. And if there's any questions or things that they want to add. So this is also really helpful for other interns as they start to come on, which is, hey, I want to add this thing. So it's this kind of live document of like they learn, and then they also can pass on things that they've learned to the next cohort. And so it's kind of it's a live document. So we're always kind of like fixing it and adding, or, oh, this sounds like this is an issue that comes up. Let's add this to the Google Doc. So that we can talk about it, and like, how do we want to frame it? How do we want to present this to people in the future if this comes up for them? So that's a tool that we use.
That's great. Thank you, Jasmine. I'm going to drop that in the chat. Just took some notes from what you were saying so other people can capture. Please keep me honest in terms of how I captured that. Thank you. That's a great idea. And I also heard you say sharing that with the next group of interns, right? You can kind of keep, like, it's live from one year to the next. That's awesome. Thank you. Anybody else want to share an idea or a question? Great. Well, I think, what this conversation is already reminding me, right, is that, we always, I feel like one of my beliefs is that we always learn better in community, right? Not in isolation. And so we are going to have some time too to talk about some specific vignettes as well later on in our time today. So I did promise that I would give you a break, not give you a break, but that we would have a break. So it's 10:15. We'll come back at 10:30. I'm going to do some tinkering with my colleagues behind the scenes and try to fix that handout and look at the questions you have. Please feel free to continue to add things in the chat if you'd like. Other things that's important to us that today is useful to you. And we look forward to seeing you back at 10:30. Thank you. So want to let you know, behind the scenes, I believe we were able to tinker with the handout that we shared, and love to drop that link again in the chat for you. I did ask if you're having trouble with any of the links, please let us know. They're all set the same way, which should be that anyone can access it with the link. And so if you private chat me with your email, we will work on sharing it with you after. But just want to kind of orient you generally to what's here. At the top, just some, important communications. What I'd like to suggest is that you keep this somewhere where you can find it and refer back to it if you need to reach out to us or need some resources. And to also spend some time looking at it after the training. You have our email addresses for our team. And then we've just asked for your support in helping us to reach you, because we do send you emails to a very large number of agency partners at one time. So sometimes your systems might view us as spam. We don't think we're spam. Again, if you have different feedback, let us know. We intend to send you critical information that's related to your role. But if you can add swfield@berkeley.edu and also that no reply plus automations at airtable.com. Airtable is our new system for our form gathering forms like evaluations and learning agreement and such. That will help you to get them timely. So if we could just scroll up a little bit on this doc, thank you. Some additional resources for you preparing for your MSW intern. That's that tip guide we shared with you in the summer. Just putting it back here, both some, tips and strategies for welcoming your student, orienting your student, preparing before they even come in the building or come to the Zoom room, depending on how they're starting. Ways to think about how you might introduce yourself, how you might conduct supervision. So there's a lot of goodies in there. Giving and receiving feedback. I think it's something that a lot of our students, particularly I've noticed, students who are in our program are very used to being the best in a lot of spaces that they've been in, and kind of assuming the role of a learner and not knowing is really challenging. And I think it can bring up a lot of feelings about imposter syndrome and do I belong here? And so, really trying to talk frankly with students early on about giving and receiving feedback before you're in a situation where you need to give or receive it can be really helpful, and normalizing that. Dora, if you could just click on that sample improvement plan there, second from the bottom on that list you're on. Next one. Yep. Great. So we're going to replace this link with a live link for you, but just wanted to, I don't know if you can zoom in on the screen a little bit. But just, again, as I was mentioning earlier, if you're noticing that students are having challenges in particular areas, this is a document that you can use to just kind of quickly, it'll allow you to type into it directly, to kind of acknowledge, what's going on with the student, really address, what you've already tried, whether it's been discussing in supervision, formal training, informal training, shadowing, et cetera. And then, looking at based on their learning agreement, what's the area that you're concerned about? Is it in an area of engagement? Is it about policy? Is it about evaluation, whatever it might be? And then the specific issue, it doesn't have to be lengthy. It can be very quick. It could be professional communication is the goal, and the issue is timeliness with documentation. This is a common one that a lot of our students struggle with. A lot of MSW students in general struggle with. And so, just being specific about what that is and how you're going to measure their progress, and then when you're going to reevaluate it. This really helps you and the student to be clear. It might feel very formal for some of you, but I do want to let you know that our students often report to us feeling like, that they know that something's not right, and they're not really sure what their instructor expects from them to fix it. And so having this kind of clearly laid out is helpful for you, the student, and then also, our faculty will review it as well. And then if you can just scroll down to that next page, then there's a review, right? So after, after sharing this, then the idea is that we meet with you, your practical consultant student, and you meet together to talk about how did it go? Did you meet were you able to redress the concern or not? And then we can figure out more readily how we can support next steps. Okay, thank you, Dora. And then the last one on that list is the critical incident report form. Again, this is one I mentioned earlier. If there's a critical incident around, okay, Jasmine, that's good. I'm glad. Thank you. I see you. If a student has a safety issue or a critical emotional issue at internship, we ask that you record it on this incident report form. This gets sent to our office right away, and of course that you would also reach out to our team, to the Practicum consultant. This just helps us to make sure if we need to make referrals for the student, if we need to put other supports in place. If a student were to have an injury, something like that, you might have an agency protocol for how that's handled. We need to record it on our end as well. So those are just two things we want to point you to. We're here to walk you through it in the moment if you have questions, should something happen. So we just want you to know where to go for that. So thank you, Dora, for sharing that. And then at the bottom of sorry, we could go back real quick. And on the bottom are some resources around co-creating affirming spaces for student interns. Recruiting students with disabilities to your internship. I want to let you know that we're hearing from a lot of agencies about more students having disability related accommodations. And I'm going to be sharing out a drop-in hour for any folks who want to come and talk about that. If you're, not sure about how to handle reasonable accommodations, if you have questions or concerns, I'm getting some additional consultation on campus around this. So we really want to make sure that we're meeting the moment with you and with our students. Our colleagues at UNC did a really nice job in terms of a free curriculum on creating trans-affirming social work field placements. If you would like to take a look at that, it's definitely an area that our students who are trans, non-binary, genderqueer, definitely are experiencing, spaces where they're not feeling welcome at internship. That's It's definitely been an issue that's come up a number of times, and it's something that we want to make sure that we're talking about. And, you know, as we were talking about earlier, all the ways in which oppression manifests itself in our spaces of practice are very important. Looking at inclusive behaviors and self-assessment checklists are from our colleagues, some samples from our colleagues, City and County of San Francisco, who have really looked at their anti-racist practices in terms of engaging. Those are just some samples. I know a lot of you are doing your own work, and don't mean to suggest otherwise, but just also want to really recognize that, our students, experience microaggressions and macroaggressions, in their spaces of practice and learning that we really want to attend to. Our Dr. Okuda created the field placement anxiety website for students. And so that's something that's really for students, but we wanted you to know that we've shared it with them, that it's really normal to be really anxious about your field placement. And students may not want to tell you that. They may more often tell us that, but I just want you to know that that's one way that you could help normalize that with students. Willa, thank you for the question. And Dora, we can transition off this slide back to the others. But Willa, thank you for the question in terms of, will you be informed about accommodations students may need ahead of time? This is a tricky issue because students who have accommodations, they are accommodations that are for their university class, right? And so that's information that's protected by FERPA because of, it's delivered here on the campus. What we do is we tell students how important it is if they have accommodations that they feel they will need to communicate that with you, the organization, right? Because there's a protocol here for students if they have accommodations in their academic classes where their instructors of record will get a letter saying this student has X, Y, or Z accommodations, and then their teacher knows that. In this case, the teacher will be our Practica consultants, our Berkeley faculty, but you as the instructor don't get a copy of that letter unless the student shares it with you or talks to you about it. So we've encouraged you through the orientation steps and questions to ask students, or to say to them, if you have any accommodations that we should talk about, please let me know. Or please let us know in the organization, I think is really important to kind of address that that you recognize students may have those needs. That kind of opens the door. And we do encourage on our end, the students bring it to your attention and make ourselves available to have a joint meeting. It gets a little tricky for us to reach out to you and initiate that for the reasons that I shared. Oh, great. Yes. Yep. That's a great, Michelle. Thank you. And Elsbeth does great work. That's a wonderful, thank you for that shout out. I'm going to reach out to her about that. So just sharing in the chat, yep, recommended doing an access check ahead of time via email, and that's gone well. I think that's a really great suggestion. What I also want you to know is that I meet with our DSP office, Disabled Student Services Program office. So if you're receiving accommodations that you experience as unreasonable, because they need to be reasonable accommodations that don't fundamentally alter the learning environment. And that can be really different for different people in different spaces. So if you're ever not sure about kind of how to handle that, please reach out. This is absolutely a big part of what I'm here for to support. In terms of what an access check looks like, I don't know, Michelle, not to put you on the spot, is there something you'd like to share about how you've languaged that?
Sure. Yeah, I was trying to type in the chat and that
okay,
does seem
that's
a little
cool.
lengthy, but yeah, I
Yeah.
think that for what I've used is in email is I wanted to do an access check, and is there anything that you need in particular that helps your learning? And you can let me know if it's speakers or things in writing. Yeah, just kind of details in that way. And then in person, what would help you learn best?
Mm-hmm.
So it can be really open and broad.
Okay, yeah, open and broad. It could be a general question, and people might say something like whether it's formal or informal, right? And again, if students have needs that you can't provide at the organization, and I think if any of you are looking for tips around language, to talk with your human resources department can be helpful to get some guidance there. But asking those open-ended questions is great. And if you're ever not sure if we can assist with some of those resources, we may be able to, and we may not. It just depends on what it is and the nature of the request. So happy to take more of those questions, and I'm definitely going to do a drop-in around that for folks too, and share out some resources. So just kind of coming back a little bit to thinking about setting up the students' experiences. You'll be going over this in their learning agreements. Of course, as I mentioned earlier, whether the student is focused on macro, meso, or micro level practice primarily, we look across ecological levels. Our role is to really support our students to be effective multi-level practice practitioners that are capable around areas of engagement, assessment, intervention, evaluation, and transition. I'm going into the next slide. These are all things that I know we've shared with you before, right? But in terms of getting some tips and strategies around helping students to create either projects or goals, right? We really want to help find that sweet spot in between things that are beyond their capacity to do, that are way too challenging at their level, and the things that are really easy breezy that they come to you ready and able to do, right? It's finding that sweet spot in the middle that they can do it with instruction. And that sometimes takes a moment to sort out. And that can be different even among, if you have a cohort of students, maybe quite different by student. And so it's, again, that assessment and some of those questions that we include in the tip guide are designed to help you to kind of understand a little bit more about what your student comes to you with and kind of how they learn best. Just want to briefly touch on a couple things related to supervision on the next slide. Really thinking about, what kinds of tasks your students should be assigned when you're thinking about, what are they going to do in the internship, right? And some of you were asking this a little bit earlier. I think one of the things is really thinking about the quantity. I think sometimes as social workers, we think about a caseload or, or a project load for us, right? What are our deliverables in terms of numbers? And that can be helpful. Some instructors really think about, okay, well, if you're here 3 days a week, I'll give you about what a part-time employee could do. And remember, again, we need to build in time for learning, supervision, and things take longer for students as they're learning it, right? So thinking about right-sizing that quantity. Also thinking about whether your environment and their learning environment is remote or in person can be really important to think about in terms of what kinds of tasks are best learned remotely and or in person, practiced that way as well, right? To kind of think those things through and to think about a thoughtful range, right? Sometimes we can think, oh, these are all projects for the intern. And sometimes those projects can be quite similar to one another, right? And so again, really wanting to think about, can student, giving them an opportunity to have a range of different kinds of things that they're learning. And then again, that just right complexity that I was just talking about. And in that middle space that I'm kind of obsessed with Venn diagrams, but that space of really finding the sweet spot between what the student most wants to learn, what you most want to teach, and frankly, what your communities or your spaces need from the intern, and then what our university expects, right? There is that, it does all converge and come together, but we can't put everything in that plan, and nor should you be expected to. So again, if any of you are having that overwhelm and or frustration of feeling like you're trying to make it fit square peg round hole, reach out. That's part of what we're here for. So thank you for that. Just some important reminders around effective supervision. Really just want to talk a little bit about this. I think supervision for MSW students, this might be their internship, maybe one of the first times that they have this kind of supervision. That's not, quote, just tasks like do the thing, did you do the thing, right? This is a very different kind of supervision. And so we find that it's really important to help orient students to supervision itself. So, helping them to understand the tasks in your relationship. So one of those, of course, is administrative, the first one. And so, what are the administrative and managerial tasks? What are the things that, when do they need to get done? How do they get done? How are you kind of monitoring that? And the next one you want to think about is the professional development, right? Including educational or clinical tasks. This may include, sharing something you expect the student to do. And then in the supervision itself, you may be sharing how to do that, and or you might be linking them to other training opportunities, right? So sometimes it's about, we're going to start talking about this today, and then next week I want you to go to this training with so-and-so who will tell you how to do this in more detail. And sometimes you may need to dedicate a significant amount of the supervision itself to doing that kind of training. And again, thinking about the trajectory over the academic year, you may do more of this kind of training and teaching early on. And then as students get more skills, right, they can start applying that. But I think sometimes supervisors may overlook the amount of time that this might take in supervision. So it's a helpful thing to think about in advance. And then another is the supportive tasks, right, of supervision. So including the reflection and the emotional support. I will say that sometimes as social workers, we might not get this kind of supervision. And so we might forget that other people need it. Just saying. So, it's helpful to remember that it's not just about, did you do the thing? Here's the learning, see you next week, right? It's also about like how did you experience that? What are you wrestling with, dealing with, emotions that may come up. And students often struggle with the difference between kind of reflection and supervision and therapy. So I think having that conversation can be really helpful in naming that their feelings are salient and relevant, and, kind of what are the kinds of things we talk about in supervision and what are the kinds of things that are, best for other settings. So helping them to learn that. And we do some of that work here too, but hearing it from you in your space with you as the supervisor is really critical. So we'll go to the next slide. Just, some reminders, and those of us who have spent time in K-12 spaces, think about differentiating instruction. So thinking about, our foundation level students or our first year students, your instruction with this group may include a lot more teaching and providing structure, right? And so really helping them understand, how do I even structure the time that I'm here? How much time do you think this kind of thing might take me? There's a tremendous amount of mentoring, and students are really wrestling with what is helping, right? A lot of students, their essays, I remember them well, like reading their folders to be admitted to graduate school. And their essays are a lot about how they want to help people. What does that mean? What does that mean here? What does that mean in your context? And to really break that down is a big part of learning at the foundation level. The advanced level, on the other side, of course, you still have a lot of that teaching and mentoring. You start to get, especially in that second semester, you get more into some of the consulting and helping students to understand the client's helping phase as a process, right? And students are better able to share a case conceptualization. They're better able to step back and kind of think about what's going on. They're more, again, at the foundation level, a little more focused on what do I do? And then the advanced students can be a little bit more able to step back and look at what's happening here. And again, when we think about clients can be organizations, communities, individuals, families, groups, but to really think about understanding that. So some common phases in supervision on the next slide, just want to acknowledge that students often really start out with pretty significant apprehension about having to perform. They want to impress you. They want you to think that they already know these things. And it is a very challenging role. Most of our students come into this program with experience doing this work, and it's very hard to transition. Some of them have been managers and supervisors to then go into the role of not knowing and not being sure and needing to ask. So kind of helping them to acclimate. Students can have apprehension about being intellectually and professionally honest, meaning I don't know, I've never heard of that. I keep hearing that term and I feel like everybody else but me knows what it means, right? We are really good at using acronyms in this profession. How can we unpack those? Unpacking terms like trauma-informed or motivational interviewing, or, all of these things that sometimes students have had classes about, or they may have read a little bit about, but they don't really understand how it is actualized. So it's helpful to really normalize that they may not know all of these things, and that's why they're in graduate school. And what I often say to students is, we don't call it social work arrive, we call it social work practice. We're always practicing, we're always learning, right? So all of us are still learning. So the other, of course, they have some apprehension about being graded and evaluated, right? So understanding, what you are looking for and how you will kind of view what they're doing is helpful. It also can be helpful to remind students that their internship grade is pass fail. So it's not A, B, C, D, E. It's about, and that doesn't mean we take it more or less seriously. It just means that, sometimes students want to be perfect at everything. And we really want to acclimate them to the fact that this takes time. So it's important for supervisors to focus on, a well-designed orientation to the agency and to the supervisory relationship, whatever that agent, whatever your agency setting is, whatever you focus on and how you do that work and how you do your work as a supervisor. Creating that safe environment. So, how are you going to structure the time? What are the kinds of ways that you can, provide some assurances to students that you take, your time? There's what levels of confidentiality can they expect from conversations they have in supervision? What are things that, you might, want to get additional consultation about? That kind of thing. The mentorship and sharing experiences. Students love to hear your stories of like what worked for you, and times that you experienced challenges and how you came through those. They always talk about how meaningful those conversations are, and so of course we don't want it to be all about our experience and back in the day and all that, but it's also important, I think, for students to know that we've also struggled, like a lot of you talked about too in your experiences as interns. And then effective ways to give and receive feedback. Our students give us a lot of feedback, and students are used to giving feedback to us too. And so they may have feedback for you. I suggest, that you talk about what, ways that you like to receive feedback, and talk with students about the ways that they like to receive feedback, again, before you're giving it, just as a normalizing part of orienting them to you and to the relationship. It can go a really long way towards understanding one another. So from student perspectives, just real briefly, in terms of what facilitates learning, some studies have shown that MSW students, what they talk about, what facilitates learning for them in internship settings, are developmental support, meaning that, as they learn more, the level of support is going to change. That can be hard sometimes for us to gauge as supervisors, right? So checking in with students and having opportunities to observe them is really helpful there. An instructor that's interested in their role, meaning the instructor is interested in the student's role as a student. Sometimes students feel kind of ignored or pushed to the side, or like, they're just here to do a job and they're not really there as a student. Studies have repeatedly shown that students really appreciate when their supervisors understand that they're students and they're learning, and that they're interested in that. Effective communication. Probably a no-brainer for a lot of us, but definitely it showed up in the research, and wanted to reiterate that. And right-sizing task support. I talked a little bit about that earlier. That last one here on the slide is thinking about, how we can right-size. And I think, opening the door for students, sometimes the first or second time you're sharing a task or assigning a task, you might still be gauging, right? How do you right-size it? And so having that conversation with students can be really helpful upfront. How would I know if it was too much? Or, let's scale this from 1 to 10, kind of thing. So I want to just talk really quickly about, some other common phases in supervision. Bennett and Deal really recognize this continuum where at the beginning, you may have students kind of having this anxious dependence where they want to ask you everything. And sometimes supervisors can feel fatigued by this. Sometimes supervisors prefer this. They would rather be asked everything. And it's just important to kind of think about, again, how do we stage that with their level of development, right? Early on, we would expect students to ask you just about everything because they're trying to figure out what they don't know, what they need to know, when do they need to consult with you. But we don't want to foster that dependence on us, right? But we also don't want to send them out too far, right, before they're ready. And then on the other continuum, is kind of, as they kind of continue forward, is that striving for independence. And so kind of breaking out of that like developmental stage of kind of breaking out of that, okay, I don't want that anymore. Like, I want to be able to feel like I know how to do this thing. And that can sometimes look like rebellion, frustration. Sometimes students will express that they're frustrated at the internship. And sometimes when we peel that back a little bit, what we find is that, they really want more independence than either they're ready for, or then their supervisor is willing at that time to give them. And so those are just really important things to name with students, right? This is a normal phase, and let's talk about it if you're starting to feel that way. But really it has to be about your assessment as the supervisor. And then, over time, kind of, more graduated, that more self-revealing and collaborative, where students will say like, I'm feeling unsure about this, but I'm really feeling confident here, or can we work together on these things, and more freedom in sharing. So we kind of see those phases go through. So we're going to go 2 slides forward and get into some vignettes. I want to give us some time to practice a little bit. So what I want to share here is that if we can go to the next slide, is even if the vignettes, we have 3 different vignettes, and these are based on, they're de-identified for training purposes, but they're based on actual situations that instructors have reached out to us and, felt frustrated, confused, had questions about. So I want to share them with you for your collective practice wisdom. We're going to talk as a group about all 3, so not to worry if you didn't get the one you really wanted. So even if your setting where you work is different than what's described in the vignette, really want to encourage you to think about what you can relate to in this scenario. And in your groups, we're going to go back into the groups we were in at the beginning. What aspects of the practicum instructor role are called upon in this vignette? As the instructor, what would be your next step? Where might you find guidance about what to do? And would you contact us, why or why not? And that's not meant to be a trick question. Really, we just want to know, right? What do you think? And that's really helpful for us to talk through. So your groups are going to be mixed with people in all different settings and levels of experience. And we have a lot to learn from each other. So on the next slide just reminds you about those group roles that we had at the beginning. The person who's the facilitator, again, you're using your alphabetical by first name. So your beginning of the alphabet will be your facilitator. So looking at the time that you have available, keep you on track with the assigned task. Your timekeeper will keep you on point with time. Your recorder will take some brief notes about your team progress, and your reporter will be prepared to share out with the large group. And the researcher may be helping your team to find some information. Where might you look for that kind of information? So somebody on your team to support you with that. Okay, so what I'm going to do is drop in the chat a handout that has all of this in one place so that you can take it with you into the breakout room. Okay. Let's see if you can grab that. Is anybody having trouble opening it? We're going to go ahead and open the breakout rooms, and we're going to give you 15 minutes in your breakout to have this conversation and to address these questions. Our Practicum team will be popping in and out. You can just ignore us. We're here to kind of think about what's happening, and everybody's gone. Okay, most people are gone. That's all right. But we will come back together in about 15 minutes. All right, so thank you. Thanks for being quick, y'all. Sorry about that. All right, team, so we can pop in and out of rooms as possible. I think so. All right, welcome back. Appreciate the work y'all did in your breakouts. Hopefully you had a chance to dig in a little bit to the vignette you focused on. Let's go ahead and go to the next slide. And since not everyone looked at the same vignettes, we want to start and just share out with the full group. So Robert, you want to take this one?
Yeah. Hold on, let me shrink my camera. All right. So for vignette A, you are a policy analyst and your MSW student Hector is eager to learn as much as they can during their internship. Hector comes to supervision with a complete and detailed draft of their learning agreement goals worksheet. As you review the items together, Hector talks explicitly about making micro, meso, and macro connections. They want to learn about effective policy analysis along with clinical assessment and grant writing.
All right, thank you. So I would love to hear from one of our reporters from Group A. What y'all talk about?
I can start.
Great.
we really talked about wanting to support and reinforce the energy that it seems like Hector is coming in with, and really kind of starting with a conversation about Hector's goals and looking at what the hope is for the internship for the year, and kind of at the same time, or certainly right around that conversation, looking at the scope of the program, looking at the scope of what we do as a policy analyst, looking at the agency resources. And so really trying to evaluate right off the bat, where are those matches and where are those overlaps, where are those areas where we might want to try to get creative to tie in, for example, clinical assessment responsibilities that are not directly related to policy analysis, but there may be some tie-ins, or how policy analysis can support grant writing, even if we're not directly. So looking at all those connections right off the bat. So we talked about that and a bunch of other stuff, but I'll let other groups talk through.
Thank you, Josh. Appreciate you. Meg.
Yeah, kind of similarly, we talked about, how to support Hector's excitement and, but also manage a little bit his expectations. And so a couple of things we talked about would be using the learning agreement, since they have such a detailed learning agreement, using that as a place to get really specific about, what can be done or what would be challenging in this particular setting. And then we also talked about the possibility of bringing in maybe a secondary supervisor, or helping Hector to connect with another staff person, or maybe there's some other way for Hector to get some of these learning needs met that don't all have to come from the primary supervisor.
Thank you for that. Appreciate that, Meg. Other group A's?
We talked about really similar things, kind of affirmation and also managing expectation. And I feel like, I'm not sure if we're discussing all of the questions or just the first, but I think our
You can go through any of them. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, we also talked about like reaching out to other partners or other internal, people internally in our organization, but also like other external people who we might want to connect them with to see kind of, I think Josh was talking about like different creative solutions or ways that we could kind of meet the students' goals. And we also talked about asking like why, and trying to figure out, since that's such a broad range, is like, are there similar themes throughout those things? Like, is it that you want to work on your writing, or is it that you want to work on something that's more thematic throughout those different areas, and trying to be able to like use that as a focus area?
Nice. Thank you. Appreciate that, Ursula. Anyone else want to share out some reflections on this one?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure how much our group would have to add to that. Pretty similar. But I was thinking in terms of my agency in particular, where we have grant writers and we have policy analysts. We have the capacity to provide a lot of his interests. So the question is, I mean, can an internship be created in collaboration with a number of folks with different expertise in different areas? And I think that's actually coming up in this particular internship, is somebody's really interested in analyzing and evaluating the effectiveness of our different programs.
Right. Thank you. I mean, I think there's a lot of powerful threads through what a number of you have shared, right? It's, trying to right size some expectations, right? If this is a foundation student, we're talking about 2 days a week, and an advanced student 3 days a week. Thinking about the scope of your agency and your practice and what's available, right? Also what you personally, as the supervisor, have the capacity and knowledge about. I heard you all talking about leveraging relationships, whether within the organization or maybe outside that organization, but absolutely using that learning agreement. I mean, this in some ways could be your quintessential social worker, right? Micro, meso, macro, I want it all, right? It's like, great, if we're doing our job and talking about multi-level practitioners, On the school side, great. And right, like how do you pick and choose so that it's not sort of a scatter plot, right? And what are the through areas? And Ursula, you talked about, are there themes that you might be able to pull right through these different types of work? Might you be able to, maybe it's about exposure. Maybe it's not a huge focus of the organization, but maybe you would reach out to a colleague, as some of you have talked about, and the student could shadow or learn right from someone else, just to spend a day in the shoes of, right, to kind of see another way of engaging the work. But the learning agreement will invite you to kind of look at these different levels and layers. Sometimes it's about reading, sometimes it's about doing, sometimes it's about, more than that. So also knowing that you don't have to offer every single thing that the student wants. I'm wondering, would anyone reach out to us? Did anyone say yeah? Or no?
Yeah, we
Yeah, our
did.
group
We were definitely had that on the priority list.
Okay. Yeah, we reached out to you. No. Right. So, I mean, you can certainly do that, right? We're here for that. Sometimes it's helpful to just have a thought partner around it. Sometimes, and we've had this happen too, where agencies have said, hey, do you know anyone in this particular area? We serve this particular community or population. Do you know anyone who's doing more of the whatever we don't, right? So doing more of the micro if we do macro or vice versa, to kind of put students in touch with. So sometimes we'll put field instructors in touch with each other if they're open to that, to kind of share ideas. And sometimes we talk to the student about, next year's internship, or you have your whole career to do this, right? So I think there's a lot of different ways to address Hector's excitement, and how can we harness and support that while also, kind of finding ways to bring it into the scope. Anything that maybe wasn't said or that you want to bring in that we haven't touched on with this one? I mean, I know there's plenty, but just anything else people want to add? Okay.
I think that I'm thinking a lot about this student's strengths, coming with like all of these goals and all of this sort of, ambition and passion.
Yep.
I really want to be able to like highlight that in a way, even if we weren't able to like manifest all of these things in the internship.
Yeah, thank you. Right? Like this is a social worker right here, right? So we want to, celebrate that and recognize that, and hold those strengths. Thank you, Devera. Appreciate that. All right. Why don't we look at, we can look at the next vignette if we can go to the next slide, please. Jennifer, if you want to take this one.
Yeah, your MSW student Bailey has let you know they are juggling a part-time job, full-time school, which includes their internship with you, and co-parenting a 3-year-old. They are attentive with clients, offer astute clinical observations, and come prepared to supervision with excellent questions. They also regularly arrive to internship between 30 to 45 minutes late and repeatedly need to be reminded to submit documentation within 24 hours. At this point in the semester, their documentation falls below your departmental standards and requires multiple revisions.
Right, thank you. So love to hear from some of our reporters on vignette B.
I can go ahead. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, that's okay. How about Jessica, and then I'll get you, Pablo? Is that you next? Okay, great.
Sorry, I was trying to avoid the shout out stuff.
Oh, you're doing great. Good.
So yeah, we really focused on just making sure that we're being supportive, also just calling it out, making sure that we're being upfront about any of the worries that we may have. We mentioned a lot of motivational interviewing, trying to get their viewpoint of like what they think they need that would be supportive so they could be successful. Just being collaborative, and then coming up with a written plan and a time frame. So, I mean, we also recognize that this is kind of not specific about when in the semester it is, but we were talking about, if there's time, okay, so we're going to revisit this in a couple of weeks. And if things have improved, then we don't really need to go any further. But if after that 2 weeks, things haven't improved, then we would go to the school to kind of talk about what else can be done. mainly just a lot of compassion for the student, because that is a really difficult place to be in. You know, some of our participants in our group were in this position themselves, so can really understand how difficult it is. And just really collaborating, seeking guidance from others too. What's been helpful for them to offer.
Thank you. Appreciate that, Jessica. Susanna. Oh, wait, hold on. We got Pablo and then Susanna. Sorry.
Yeah, just some shared themes of really approaching things with curiosity. Thinking about how people in Bailey's position will often like preemptively internalize blame, and that might create further silence. So I think really needing to, both address the situation and really come at it from a place of like validation that actually they're carrying a lot, and that like it's like actually in like many ways a testament to Bailey's strength and resilience as a person, that Bailey is really holding all of these three things down, even though they're struggling. And then like a kind of move towards like a solution orientation. Like after the validation. So really, you know, getting a sense for what would be supported from an access perspective for Bailey. And also working to be really transparent about what agency is able to offer, and in potential consultation with Cal Berkeley, what Berkeley is able to offer in order to share potential resources and accommodations with Bailey in order to concretize things. We also talked a little bit about like the importance of making sure Bailey is familiar with like agency policy and like an opportunity for supervisors, especially if they are in management or have access to management, around like, hey, what does childcare look like? What are policies for employees with children? And really thinking kind of at that more macro agency level policy development side of things.
Thank you. Appreciate that, Pablo. Susanna. You're on mute. Sorry.
Sorry, I always forget to unmute myself. Our group pretty much came up with similar things that the other two groups have shared, and wanting to be student-centered, and because there's so many layers, because we don't know the distance that Bailey will have to come to the internship, as well as maybe her own, as clinical as she is, you know, there may be some challenges in documentation. And so how do we support, you know, definitely grow her strengths, but as to also support her needs. So really from a stance of understanding and talking with Bailey about her needs, but at the same time, making sure that the agency expectation, not just the expectation, not just the form and the legalistic expectation, but how it impacts the clients, because, you know, we're all there for the clients as well. So, you know, having Bailey share her understanding, maybe there are gaps of understanding of the policies, and so to make that clear, and to engage or to have Bailey come up in a way, you know, to share, you know, what will work for them in terms of corrective action plan, if there is one, you know, what would Bailey need to be successful, and if the agency can accommodate. We talked about perhaps, you know, adjusting client hours, or do we allow extra time at the end of the day, or extend her day, you know, to shift her hours to do the documentation. So how we would engage the school is that if Bailey has concerns or difficulties with writing documentation, maybe on the school end there would be some, you know, professional writing or, you know, extra tutoring that Bailey can get. So we would work together with the school to support Bailey really holistically as best as we can.
Thank you, Susanna. And as someone who has been on the school side, used to be one of our beloved Practicum consultants, we miss you and thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Megan.
I will mention two things that we chatted about in our group. The first being just the need to address that, like, there is a lot of emotional exertion of energy for this student, and really not only validating but really highlighting for them that it is okay to set some boundaries and limits as a growing professional, and figuring out how we can support them in doing that. We talked about that there's a lot of ask in the world of social work, and there's a lot of expectation that people will go above and beyond and just say yes and be worker bees essentially in lots of different environments, and really wanting to validate and kind of acknowledge that that's not always going to be the expectation, or that shouldn't be the expectation, that they're paying for this experience, and we want it to be meaningful and really valuable for them, and not something they look back at as like, oh yeah, that was such a draining part of my experience because I didn't feel supported. And then the second thing I wanted to mention that someone in my group also brought up was just like the need to really grow positive, like trusting rapport with our students from the beginning of our relationship, so that we do create an environment that feels safe for them to share their struggles, and to share that they're having a hard time, because maybe it's that their kiddo has to get dropped off at a certain time, and then by the time they drop them off, I can't drop off my kid with no supervision until 8 o'clock, and your expectation is to be there at a certain time. And so just trying to also remind ourselves that we're also building a rapport, and we're building a relationship as part of this experience for them.
Thank you, Megan. I appreciate that. Get one more, Michelle.
Hi, this wasn't my group, but we had a very similar situation come up last year with a trainee, and everybody has such amazing wisdom that they shared, but I really wanted to affirm what somebody said earlier about curiosity, because when this happened with this student who had a job as well as full-time school, as well as babies under 3, it was really important that her supervisor and that we explored and knew that it was really important in her faith tradition that she contribute financially to her temple. And so that was a really big priority. And so we needed to sort of navigate that was a stress that couldn't shift. And so that curiosity was really important. And then I think we always also affirmed the community system too, that her insights and observations were so valuable to her cohort and to the system at large, and that was also part of the clinical loop. And she became a board member, an intern representative, and so there was some really great growth from that approach.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. I mean, just really appreciating hearing a lot of you talking about the strengths of the student, what they are juggling, the challenge of that, and also, talking about, what getting curious, finding out what it's about. Sometimes we may attribute meaning to certain things, you don't care, or you can't because you're caring too much, right? Those could possibly be two extremes, right? And so, what getting curious about what is going on for the student and their perspective, and what it is they feel like they need, right? You all talked about the importance of addressing, making sure they understand the agency expectations. And I heard you talk about, when and where some of you might involve the school. What I might add here too is thinking about it. In the vignette, it says they also regularly arrive late. So hopefully that's something that, can be talked about early on, maybe not like the first time, but what does regularly mean, right? But to try to address that early, because there might be, some solutions to be put in place. And I appreciated too those ideas about maybe connecting students to bigger policy issues in the organization. And also maybe tips and strategies, how do people do the juggle, right, of all of these different hats and roles that one has to carry. And the school definitely would be here to connect with you, to consult about this, if it was something that was continuing, for sure. So thank you for all of your ideas. And I think sometimes what can get tricky, and we see this on the school side, talking with instructors kind of one-on-one sometimes when y'all reach out to us, is sometimes that it feels hard, especially when you have a lot of empathy for what the student is going through, like how to also hold that, like how to hold those expectations at the same time in a way that feels appropriate for you and your relationship with the student. And it can be hard to hold both. And I think it sometimes can get confusing for students if we are very understanding and then suddenly, later on, then it's like, and now we need to call the school and, now it's a problem. So I think it's that art, of kind of bringing in early, both the understanding and the kind of the curiosity and, when needed, that corrective support. So thank you for all of that. This is hard stuff. Let's go to the next one. And Courtney, I think you're going to read this one for us.
Sure. Donna is the most experienced clinician on your team. You've assigned Donna to co-facilitate a weekly Friday group with your MSW student, Monisha. The focus of the group is harm reduction for adults with severe and persistent mental illness and co-occurring substance use disorders. In your team meeting one Monday, Donna briefly describes her individual client and member of this group, Albert, was masturbating during the last group session and will not be allowed back in the group until Donna assesses Albert's readiness to return.
Okay, thank you, Courtney. Someone from Group C, want to report out what you came up with?
I can go ahead.
Yeah.
So we talked about different things. One of them was like even just to start off communication, like being able to check in about when things like this happen, to be able to be informed right away. For example, Donna being aware of anything that happens with the intern to be talked about before, right? Like right when it happens or right after it happens. So that was something important, to be able to have a protocol in terms of communication and how is that supposed to be reported. The other thing that we focused on was just on the experience of the intern and being able to check in with them and just how that felt, and possibly even that if it was something triggering, right? Just some reflection on all of that, and really working on what are the next steps in moving forward and their comfort level. There was a conversation around also, is this even appropriate if it was like a first year student versus a second year student, and thinking about all of that, but really taking the time to process the situation with the intern and allowing that to be a conversation around how are we moving forward? Is this something you feel comfortable with still being part of, or is it something that you don't want to be part of? And also talking about the things, if the intern does want to be part of, like in what forms, like do you want to be part of that, right, assessment, or do you like, what are the things that you feel comfortable doing? And we also said that we would communicate with this university just to let them know that that incident occurred. Someone mentioned better communication, like more communication is better. I think that's it.
Thank you. Thank you so much. We appreciate that. Yeah.
Additionally, if you allow me, it would depend also in the impact that this incident had on the intern. Because if emotionally it was something that was very impactful, then assessing if there is a specific form or process that needs to happen, like do we need to report it as an incident for viewing it from organization, it might be a case that needs to have certain layers of legal processes, and then investigating whether the school has any other additional processes that need to happen.
Thank you.
In some ways it's protecting the rights of our interns and also providing the services that they're entitled to.
Yeah, this brings up a lot of potential legal questions, and to your point, how the student might experience it impacts that too. And, erring on the side of thinking about what we should do on both sides. When we've had situations like this, just for you to know, we have reported it to our Office for the Prevention of Harassment and Discrimination, with the contextual information about the context within which this occurred, right? So, and often what they're asking and what we would always ask is, what is the follow-up with the student, right? So it's, this is something that can happen in the spaces that we work in, and it can impact you. Both are true, right? We can't protect students from everything that might happen in this work, and it's important to understand how systems and individuals deal with it, and we need to attend, right? So it's a both and. I think sometimes systems can be very accustomed to dealing with this kind of thing. And it's just kind of like, yep, this happens here, keep pushing, right? And just as a reminder, whether it's a first year or a second year, we definitely need to slow it down. And like you all have already said, we need to check in with the student, and make space for the fact that it can be impactful. And, different students will see it differently. Some may feel to kind of have, street cred with you, that they need to kind of look tough and be like, oh, this doesn't, I'm unflappable, this doesn't bother me. And sometimes it may really, right? So it's, how do we make that space? And that's not always easy to do. Yeah.
Like just a couple things. Most of
Yep.
what we discussed has already been mentioned. Two other things that we talked about someone mentioned offering support to Donna also, depending on the role, our role
Sure.
with Donna. Also checking in and or facilitating kind of debriefing between Donna and the student, because they were both there at the same time, making sure that there is a process for that. And another thing that came up was in our support for our student, really clarifying our role and what we can provide and the level of confidentiality we can offer. And that there's, some of that, but depending on what comes up or how it goes, like we probably will communicate with the school to some extent, but just really making sure the student is informed about that before they're sharing more than they want to be shared with anybody else.
Yeah, thank you for that. That's really important. And we share with students that we are what are considered responsible employees. And so if we get information that a student may be exposed to harassment or discrimination, we have to report it to that office. And because the internship is an extension of their education, that your work there, is covered under that as well. So really appreciate that informed consent piece around what students are sharing, and knowing that there are confidential resources. We have confidential resources on campus, and students have access to that information, and we'll share out that information with you as well, as we start the year, to make sure that if you want to mention it to students, as well as community organizations outside, that students can access for confidential sharing. Yeah. So I know that there's so much here. I'm wondering if there's I have a couple things I want to bring in before we close. Are there other points that people want to make with this vignette that haven't been shared?
The only thing that I think that we had talked about, and all of them were addressed, I believe, within ensuring safety and so forth. We did talk about, this is towards the very end, then the practical consultant to maybe get in touch with that person. I myself have a supervision for a Berkeley supervision that's on top of me that I certainly would address with that. But we were talking about even first end, that before even having the students come into an agency, to already have the talk, obviously with the school, what can be implied, and the environment in which these students are coming into, and the student as it comes in prior to. That was kind of addressed if the person, regardless, if I'm thinking that they are way on top of it, experienced to the max, it doesn't mean it can't shock them and be a different scenario for them. So that would be what we talked again about, emotional support, and not, I would be there after the group to ensure, or they should definitely be coming to us to unload what happened within that group. So I think, yeah, it was all kind of re-talked about in a different manner. Yeah.
No, thank you, Jan. And I think that's really important, as part of orientation, right? You can't think of every possible scenario in your practice setting, but these are the kinds of things that can happen here. And the genre might be things that are very surprising, things that are shocking, things that make you uncomfortable, client behavior, those kinds of things, or, staff behavior, right? How to have those conversations. And part of our expectation too, is that you review the safety protocols with students as a part of your orientation, including your sexual harassment policies. That can be a time to open up, what may be considered harassment, what are things you might expect to see at times from certain behaviors because of mental illness or otherwise, which doesn't excuse it and make it okay for the student, but it does, just to offer that, clear understanding. Do we have one other hand up? Miles, did you want to say something?
Yeah, just quickly, I'm wondering, maybe I missed something, but wouldn't a part of this conversation be about Albert's impact on the rest of the group, and what the clinical considerations would be, and next steps?
Absolutely. Thank you, Miles. We don't want to forget about the kind of the clinical piece of this with the client. Absolutely. Right. And so that kind of debriefing is really important, and that kind of sharing with the student, right? So the student understands, how do you unpack that with the group? How do you do that without shaming Albert? How do you look at, what does accountability look like? What is, accountability without shame? What does, what do boundary setting, all of those kind of pieces? What's part of informed consent to the group, right? There's so many things, both for the clinical work for the clients, but also the learning for the student, that are just critical. So thank you. And I know we just kind of did a little bit, but right, I just want to kind of offer us some kind of learning from each other, and just really appreciate all of your thinking and sharing. And I want to just go over some reminders, if we can go to the next slide, of some things that are some essentials and non-negotiables that are already included. We've shared this with you with the tips, but you definitely need to go over these again. Just want to let you know that we do have new standards from our Council on Social Work Education. I will share more about this in my video to you about the learning agreement that we send out when we share that with folks. But as I mentioned at the beginning of this training, we have some explicit standards that really factor in anti-racist and anti-oppressive practice per se. So while we have these same 9 areas that we've always had on our learning agreement for many years, you'll see some different ways that we're measuring it this year. And so just want to flag that for you. So next, we want to take a look at the learning environment. We've talked about all of these things, and I just want to really ask that you please review these after the training. Just the orientation, making sure the tasks are appropriate, clearly differentiating the role of an intern from the role of an employee. Some of you have students who are there in the capacity of an intern, and they may also have a job with your organization. There needs to be that very clear firewall between those two. They cannot be the same, and they need to have separate supervision. We've talked about reasonable accommodations. If any of you are struggling with that, please reach out to us or have questions about it. We're definitely here for that, and definitely understand there's questions there. We've talked about the importance of being free from harassment and discrimination. As a part of the learning agreement, we ask all instructors to confirm that you have reviewed your sexual harassment policies with students as a part of the orientation, and that you've also discussed your safety precautions. So going into the next slide. A reminder of things we need to hear about. Please, early and often. We love hearing from you, even if it's hard. Please reach out to us. If you have a question, a concern, you're not sure about something, we want to make sure you are doing this as volunteer work for our profession. We see it that way, we appreciate it that way, and we really want to make sure that we're supporting your work however we can. Please communicate to us about required paperwork. Erica Wilson has done an incredible job of streamlining our online processes for forms. And so we want to, there may be some learning curves. We're trying to help you with those with tutorials and whatnot. Yes, we will send out the training, both the recording and the slides. Annual site visits, our team, Robert, Courtney, Jennifer, who you've seen here today, as well as our colleague Claudette, you'll be coming out and doing site visits. Usually we do those after the learning agreement is completed, earlier for our advanced students, a little bit later for our foundation students. If there's ever a change in the supervisor, we need to know. Please let us know that. If you have issues or concerns about disability related accommodations, any concerns about harassment or discrimination, please do bring that to our attention. It is important that we understand it. Critical incidents, whether they are physical or significantly emotional in nature, we need to understand that as well. And of course, we reach out to you for recruitment. We'll come knocking again to see if you're willing to work with our students again next year. So those are some key points. We reach out to you, or you reach out to us. So next slide. So some non-negotiables, just some reminders. You need to have a qualified practicum instructor with an application on file. We've sent reminders to you if we didn't have that. Please let us know if you have questions. 4-week orientation to agency tasks and roles and safety protocols. That is critical that you go over those safety protocols with students before they're starting their work, whatever the setting. The weekly individual supervision for 1 hour is required by your accreditation body. I know with changes to BBS guidelines for things like triadic supervision for, postmasters folks, that does not apply to our MSW student interns. MFTs might have different things, LPCCs may have different things, PQRSs may have different things, but the MSWs need an hour a week of individual supervision. So please remember that that is a requirement for us. And thank you, Erica, for putting that in the chat. Allowing some time for shadowing, training, and support. That doesn't always have to come from you, right? You may work with colleagues to, give your student opportunities to train and learn more, but that's part of, what they're needing as a student. We need your support and collaboration with the student in creating the learning agreement to establish those goals. We view that as a contract. It's the student's learning contract with you and with our school. A site visit is required. Usually it's 1 a year. We may do more depending upon what the needs are for an individual student. The evaluations, as I mentioned, at mid-year and year-end. And again, we require that you communicate with us around critical incidents, changes in supervision, or problems in the internship. It's just really important that we collaborate with you on these points. Next slide. So just a reminder of some prohibited activities for MSW students. These could be things that your staff who may have MSWs are allowed to do, but our students are not for a variety of reasons. Our students may not physically restrain clients, even if they are trained to do it, even if they are certified, even if they have a job in your organization where they do that during their job time. As an intern, they cannot. In part, it's about being covered through our insurance and some other issues. We cannot have students restrain clients. Our students cannot transport clients in their own private car. They can transport clients in an agency vehicle or an organizational vehicle. They cannot transport clients with a recent history of violent behavior, or treat clients with a history of violence towards staff. They cannot work in the agency or remotely at times when other staff are not present or available. This one gets a little tricky with the remote, sometimes with students who are doing hybrid placements. Please just be clear when the student is on duty as an intern, they need to have access to a supervisor. If we were in a fully in-person environment, for example, students can never be alone in the organization. They can't be the last one there after everyone locks up, for example, to finish their paperwork. I will spare you the stories of what can happen. Please do not do that. It is really important. Our students can't distribute or handle medication. I know sometimes with street outreach and other things, we might, have social workers, go to SROs and, hand out Medisets or things like that. Our students cannot be a part of that or handle that. Our students cannot have clinical responsibility for clients with a high risk of suicide without reviewing if the student has the skills to handle that and they need close supervision. Our students can't have clinical responsibility for their high-risk clients without review or do activities that go outside the scope of a social worker that may place the intern or client at risk of harm. Next slide. Just in terms of time and documentation, we do ask that our students complete time logs at the end of each semester. And so they receive those at the beginning of the semester. So we encourage them to keep track throughout the year. Our students do get excused absences of two academic weeks that they don't have to make up, meaning 2 intern weeks. So if they intern with you for 16 hours a week, right, they can have 4 total days they don't have to make up. It's intern days, not actual days of the week, okay? If they are a 3-day-a-week intern, they can have 6 days that they don't have to make up throughout the academic year, okay? The learning agreement and mid-year evaluation are due by posted dates. We do ask for timely communication about student performance concerns, program improvements, and critical incidents. Some helpful reminders, please stay in touch with your assigned practicum consultant. If you haven't already gotten their email, you will get it very soon, introducing themselves to you, how to contact them, which students they're working with. Please watch for our university emails from us at swfield@berkeley.edu. Remember that orientation over those first 4 weeks. The learning agreement comes due in the first month. Our foundation students don't start until the 3rd week of September, but our advanced students start next week. So hopefully you're expecting them. And so if you have any questions, please reach out. Some key tools and resources, our Practicum Education Handbook. We are continuing to add some revisions to that, and we'll send out a notice when we have those posted. Some improvements, we'll let you know, and our calendar is posted online. First year start the 3rd week of September. So that's that 3rd Wednesday. I don't want to say the wrong date. I want to say it is I should have it memorized. It is the 20th, September 20th. COVID guidelines. Thank you for that. Our specific agency, our specific university protocol at present, masks are not required. Students, if they have had a close contact, are expected to test. They can get tests on campus. They're no longer free, but they can get them on campus or other places. They are required to test if they've had a close contact. If they are symptomatic, they are expected to stay home and then test again. And we will send out a link to our university COVID guidelines for this year. Those may change. Definitely hearing COVID is on the rise. We have advised all students that if there's differing guidance between the internship and the university, they are always expected to go with the more stringent of the 2 sets of guidance. So if yours is more strict than ours, they need to stick with that both with you and on campus. All of our students have access to a 24/7 advice nurse through UHS, through our University Health Services Center. They can always consult with an advice nurse if they have questions about guidance that may differ or what they should do. So when in doubt, have them discuss with us, and please do discuss with them your expectations. So I know that was a whirlwind that we've done in this time together today. Want to go to the next slide and just, I think we're probably short on time for that mentee, but maybe we can take the slides down and just kind of look at each other here for a second and see if anyone wants to, if you want to drop in the chat any takeaways you've had, or if anyone wants to unmic real quick and just say, well, 1-word takeaway from today. Love to hear from you. And everybody's hoping nobody does it. So go ahead. Excited. All right. Thorough. Bidirectional learning. Communicate early. All right. Great, great. Supported. Great reminders. Good, good. All right. Well, listen, we are going to be sending out an evaluation to hear a little bit more from you about how today went for you. If you have questions, things that weren't answered, you all come to us with really different levels of years you've done this. Some have done it forever. Some of you are just starting out. Please let us know. We're here to make sure to answer your questions. Look forward to hearing from you. Just want to thank you again for your dedication and care for our students. My heart is full every time we start the year, and just knowing that you're all out there to receive our students is a huge gift. So thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm here to stick around if you want to ask other questions. Otherwise, I want to respect your time on the noon hour. Take good care.